Welcome, everybody, to another Rob Logan show. This is another interview show for me. Thank you all for joining me. And I am extremely excited to have my guest on this week. We were talking a little bit before the show, and he is a great coach. They have a great podcast out. We're going to talk about that. So I want to introduce Chris Miller to my episode. Chris, thank you for coming on my show. I appreciate it.
Oh, great to be here.
Chris, you guys are a part of the Coach's Box podcast. Call it like we see it. I watched a couple of your shows. I got to tell you, very professional, great, like to visually watch it. I think it's awesome. And you guys all have such a great rapport with one another. It's amazing how you guys all get along, and you kind of know when you have that many people. Sometimes on a podcast, everybody talks over one another, but you guys all kind of try to really fit into one another. And I got to tell you, I'm not like fanboying out on this, but I'm a huge fan of podcasting. And when I mean that, I mean watching it. I really enjoy watching podcasts, and that's the reason why I'm doing it. I'm just not here as an interviewer, just, doing my own show to say I'm out on some network or anything. I actually really do enjoy watching podcasting, and your show is one of my favorites. It's a great show to watch. Like I said, I love how you guys interact with one another. How long have you guys known each other and have been together doing the show?
Well, it's funny you say that, because we two of us work at the same school and the other two don't, and it's a rival school. So we've known each other, oh gosh, probably about 8, 9, 10 years now, and it's really funny, because at times I feel like we've butted heads. I will have to say that us having a professional podcast is probably the first time I've ever had that compliment, because of the way that we like to sometimes goof around and have a little fun with things. But we do try our best. We're just some simple coaches that like to get together and talk sports, or kind of talk whatever we want to, and that's how it ends up going. Sometimes we don't have an agenda. Sometimes we do, depending on the news, depending on local sports. But it's really just about us having fun. That's really what it comes down to.
And you guys, like you said, high school coaches from Jefferson City, Missouri.
Jefferson County. So we're really close. We're close to St. Louis. It's about 25, 30 minutes north of us, and we're down here, and we have a lot of just local, like I said, local athletes that we've coached. This is where we've been coaching for the last 10 years, and that's really where it's all started at.
I like immediately assume that when watching some of your podcasts that you guys known each other for like years, because I know how I am around my friends, and like 4 or 5 of my good friends, if we sat down and started talking and had a beer or two, and just, that's how, if you tape this, that's how we would be, because we just know each other. We know each other's stories. We know the tendencies. You guys seem to have that rapport with one another that is just, it's great to have. And it's just so entertaining to watch the episodes, I think. My next question.
Well, I appreciate the compliments. But we kind of got going on this just to tell the backstory. We start go. I'll just jump in there, I guess. Hopefully, the internet here stays with us. The life streaming in our area, and just happened to get on a group chat and put it as if we just did a coach's talk show and talked about sports and doing something like that. And that's kind of where it was born out of. And we started doing the show, and one of the guys, Jason Jarvis, one of the first and original guys on the show, in his basement, and we did it there. And then we had had a quarantine. Everybody had quarantine, so we were doing it via Zoom. And then we started doing it at local Mexican restaurant in 2021. And then we're going to go ahead and produce the show ourselves. Now, at that point in time, we went ahead and did a split with what was Livestream STL, who was producing our show. We had no experience on podcasting. I didn't know anything about it. I knew that we went Facebook Live and YouTube Live sometimes. Kind of a lot we that we have grown the show from basically just a one camera show with either a laptop or something like that to we have several cameras. We have graphics now, and again, it used to be real basic, but the point of the show from the very beginning was we are four guys. If we have other coaches on, the rules apply. We fun. There's no coach speak, so you can't give that generic coaching cliche answer of, well, we're just going to take it one game at a time, kind of enough with the radio and the local media, the newspaper. So when we get ourselves together, we're going to talk, we're going to have fun. And then on top of that, we have a couple of other guys who who join when they would ask this question, like, what are you guys doing? And it's like, well, we're just going to have fun. We're just going to get on Facebook Live. We're going to get on YouTube, and we're going to have fun, and you guys can be a part of it. And if you want to laugh at what we're doing, great. If you want to make fun of us, great. We really didn't care because like I said, it was all about us having fun and talking sports and just being around each other, because that was the whole thing is we just enjoyed each other's company, and just hang out and let's talk. Just like you said, it's kind of like sports, and that's the basis of the show. So it's definitely, I mean, after, I think we're almost to our 150th episode, so we're pretty proud of it. We try to do it about every week. It just depends on all of our schedules, because we all coach at different places or do different things or have our families that we have to obviously put first. But that's been our it's kind of been our MO, and we just enjoy entertaining and having fun.
That's awesome, because like I said, I enjoy watching good podcasting, and coming across your shows for the last, Dan had mentioned to me about the possibility of you coming on my show. So that was probably about a week or so ago. So I started watching some of your shows, and like I said, I'm a true fan of watching like good podcasting, and watching your shows. They seem to go by real quick. And, that's when you tell you're enjoying yourself. You're listening. You guys have great content. I watched a couple of the shows where you have different coaches on, and I'm a rec coach, so I'm not at that high school level. So I've seen some basketball being played. I've coached some basketball being played, but nothing on the higher level. And just watching that and just almost picking your guys' minds and just seeing how you guys are, it's a fun show to watch, and I really enjoy it. So I get to give hats off to you guys. It's really cool. Chris, can you hear me?
Hard time with it right now. I don't know if it's on my end or what. but
Yeah, yeah, the connection's a little bad. But listen, if you can hear me, I want to ask my question here. Um, you've coached high school basketball. You said earlier when we were talking for 18 years, over 18 years, you've been involved. Um, what in your aspect, what is the most important part of starting a successful basketball program? Whether it be travel, we're talking, 13, 14, 15-year-old kids. What do you think is some of the most important things that need to come together for a successful program?
Well, I mean, I think you have to have, well, there's a lot of things you have to have. You have to have really, you have to have good parents when for anybody to have a successful sports program in high school. It doesn't matter if it's a travel team. It doesn't matter if it's high school basketball. Your parents are one of the most important parts, and that also goes both ways, because it also can be the same thing that gives you the most headaches too. My audio still
Yep, you're
glitchy,
good.
or am I
No, you're good. You're good.
just making sure you can hear me? Well, and the parents, the parents are a big part of it. In that's where it starts. The parents taking kids and having them understand the importance of it, because us coaches, we don't have time to coach 12 different age groups all the way down, take them everywhere around the country or the different cities and whatnot. We have our own families. So it's time for, let's say, our high school coaches or AU coaches, select coaches, to step in, being the coach of that team, or the facilitator of taking them here and there, that you allow those kids to be coached by somebody else. Because I think it's a detriment to some of our high school age kids whenever they go off to college, and they've had such a huge influence on their parents' opinions, coaching, on the opinions of the coaches they've had in high school. Is they've been getting dinner table to death about this, that, or whatever, with what their parents don't agree with. So to understand that, and there's going to be things that you're going to disagree with, you can do is be supportive for the kid. If the kid has an issue with it, that they need to be the ones to advocate. And I think that goes a long way to creating life skills for that kid who's going to be going off hopefully to college and playing a sport and doing those things. And if we don't do that as parents, then we're setting our kids up for failure, because that's something they have to learn how to deal with. They have to learn how to deal with that adversity. They have to learn how to deal with somebody maybe being a little bit more critical of them, or coaching styles being different than what they're used to. Let's face it, you go off to college and you're going to play in somebody's system. It might not be the same system that you're accustomed to. It might not be the same kind of offense. I mean, if we're talking football, it's not good. You might be used to power I. Next thing you know, you're playing in a spread formation. Well, I'm not used to that. Or an option in an option game. So you have to understand that there's going to be times where things are different, and for parents to understand that, that's where it starts, and then be able to talk to their kids and teach them those things. And I think that's been one of the things that has been hard as a coach to see that and to understand that. Right, you educate your parent on that and the kids on that, but it's sometimes that falls by the wayside. But those two things are in itself very important if you want to have that have a successful program. And then from the high school standpoint, I think you have to have really good administration. So it's a little different on select. If you don't like the way that your kid's being coached or whatever, and the kid doesn't like it, they're not enjoying it, you can just find another select team. In high school here, especially here in Missouri, well, I mean, for the most part, you can't just take your kid and go to another school because you don't like the coach of that school. You have to play at the school that you're located in, or you pay tuition, go to a private school. And uh, if your administration isn't strong and supportive, they can be the ones that can basically help you pack your bags as a coach, and you're out the door because you made, Johnny's dad upset by the way you played him, or this, that, or whatever. And
Mhm.
you want to make sure that if you have a good administration, that that's one of those things that you can never you can never discount that. And we have a lot of really good school administrators, principal superintendents in our state. And then there are places where they're not, and they're really influenced by school boards and, people of power in the community. And that makes it tough, especially when they succumb to certain pressures too. So it makes our jobs as coaches a lot harder to build success. I mean, you might be in a place for 2, 3, 4 years, and they're not going to allow you to stick around and see the fruits of your labor, what you've been trying to build. So yeah, it makes it really tough. But when you find that, and you find that good mix, and you find those things, that's where you see a lot of the successful programs, because you have all those things. You've got great parents, you've got kids they're willing to learn, and they buy in, and then you have administration that supports your coaches, and that's really what it takes.
I love the fact that you started off both of them with the parents and the administrator, because that's one of the things that I look for too, especially with travel teams. The parents to me are the most important part, and I'm consistently thanking them because they're the ones that are driving them all around. When you have a tournament upstate, they're the ones that are driving for 2 hours, and you really need to have the parents on board and committed. And I think the same way as you do. The parents, the administrative, they're so much more important than I think sometimes the players. Sometimes people are going to say, well, it's your players that you have to obviously have good players in order to have a good program. But I think it's more of having good parents, having a good team, and building that atmosphere that the kids enjoy playing in, and coaches enjoy coaching in.
Yeah. I mean, and that makes it a lot more enjoyable when you have those things, and you have look, my parents didn't always agree with my coach, but they were very supportive of the program and of me. And that's what you really, you got to have it. I think it's absolutely essential. And because I mean, let's face it, your kids are the most important thing in your life, and obviously if you want what's best for them, you're going to think about that first instead of the program sometimes. So but yeah, their parents are such a vital part to it, and I love talking to parents, even when I know they don't particularly like talking to me, or they don't like me. That's fine. We can always agree to disagree on things, but I enjoy getting their point of view. Sometimes you can take it and apply it, and sometimes it's like, well, let's just leave that over here. And they just like to be listened to sometimes too.
Right, right. Well, I have a 13-year-old, going to be 14-year-old son who is going into high school. He'll be a freshman next year, and so he's getting ready to play high school basketball. What do you have any advice for kids that age who are now going to be taking the leap for high school basketball?
I would say that if you're playing basketball, and you're going from your eighth grade to ninth grade year, and you're making that transition, I think the weight room is the most important thing that a kid can do, to help prepare themselves for the high school basketball game when they're used to playing at a middle school level, or even middle school playing up select travel ball, because it's a physical game. And the difference in a 14, 15-year old male to a 17, 18-year old male can be night and day difference. You end up putting a freshman out there, and they're competing against a junior or senior who's built like a grown man. And if you're not strong, you're gonna struggle in some of these things. You can also set yourself up to be hurt, and that's the weight room is another way of protecting yourself as an athlete, because you're improving your body to take a beating. And I don't know what it is around the country as far as some of the games that middle school play. I know that we have middle school programs here in Missouri, and they play probably about 15, 20 games with the high school. Obviously, when you play select travel ball, it's a little different. But the style of play when you get to high school, it can be a physical game. Even the most finesse, the most athletic kids can. There's teams that are like that, and they play a physical style of game. Boxing out becomes a lot more physical at the high school level. So you want to get in the weight room. You can't be scared of the weight room. You can't be, well, it's going to mess my shot up. No, you need to probably improve your shot form, and the weight room is going to allow you to shoot quicker. You're going to be able to shoot jump shots. You're going to be able to do a lot of things that maybe you wouldn't have been able to do back in middle school, because you're physically stronger. And another thing that I try to tell kids is, like, make sure that you develop your game and be more well-rounded as a ball player. I don't know. If I had a nickel for every time that I've seen a kid who everybody else is just 3 feet tall to a grasshopper, and he's just dominating everybody because he plays inside, and then after he becomes a freshman, he's never learned how to dribble. He's a post player now who's 5'11", 6 foot, trying to play with high school kids who are now 6'5", 6'6", and he can't play, and he washes out because he never developed his game. It's essential for kids to learn the fundamentals of all spots on the court. So a lot of times look, basketball nowadays, you have positionless basketball, and that's the really good thing about that is everybody has to be able to handle the ball. And I've worked with coaches who say that if you can't dribble a ball, then you can't play for me. And there's a reason why, because that's the guy who's going to be the turnover waiting to happen, or he's going to be that kid who walks in as a freshman and he's used to playing in the post, and he can't play guard now. Well, now he's at the end of the bench, or he just quits playing because I haven't learned these skills. And now you're playing catch up when everybody else is excelling, and you're still trying to get to that base level of fundamentals. So for anybody, if you're used to playing in the post, you need to be working on ball handling. If you're used to scoring inside, you need to be working on your outside shot, and then vice versa. So if you're used to playing a guard, I need to be able to score inside. If I'm used to being able to shoot the ball outside, I need to be able to score inside. So it makes your game more well-rounded. And now you're a kid who can play anywhere. You're not just limiting yourself and saying, well, I'm just going to play in this spot because that's all I can do. You want to be able to play every single spot on the court, because again, you never know what style you're going to be stuck into. You don't know where you're going to be going. If that coach leaves, now you have a new style. Well, now I'm a guy who can play anywhere. And those utility guys like that, like, and use the baseball term, utility player, those guys get an opportunity to play more than other guys.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, that's a big part. I see that, I'm very up close, obviously, with my son being here, watching him, seeing what he does. A lot of times, that's all he keeps talking about is, I'm a point guard, I'm a point guard, I'm a point guard. And I keep trying to put him in different situations that aren't necessarily a point guard, just to try to get him to think of the other positions. Yes, probably when you go to high school, based upon your size or whatever, you're probably, yes, going to be a point guard because you can dribble and all that fun stuff. But you also need to be able to know the game as a whole. And I think, like you said, you touched on it. That's what a lot of kids seem to sometimes, especially in today's day and age. We talked about this a little bit before we came on the air about, today's player versus the, old school players that, like, I can think of and how I was a kid. It's definitely a lot different. And these kids nowadays, they do tend to get very focused in on one position or one player that they like, that they're trying to emulate.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell the kids, like, don't pigeonhole yourself into being one spot. If you've always played point, be able to play a guard. If you've always played in the post, be able to play a guard position. And in the way you do that is you become more fundamentally sound. But you're right. There's a lot of kids who, this is what I've always done. I do think it's funny when a big guy decides he wants to be a guard and he doesn't have guard skills, but he thinks he can step outside and shoot a three every now and then, and say, look, man, blind squirrels find acorns too, but then they end up dying at some point because they can't find them. That's how your 3-point shot works. So you need to improve your game all the way around. And when kids do that, they take off. They're able to play more. And that, if I got a guy who I can put out there because he can do a lot more things, he's gonna get a chance to play. And I don't think
Chris,
you're gonna find a coach worth their salt that's going to say, nah, I'm not going to play that dude because he can play everywhere. No, there's no only do that. No, you can make yourself more hireable, more useful to your company, and that's going to take you places. It's the same thing.
Chris, I got we mentioned a little bit about this as well beforehand. As a high school coach, what is your take? Do you endorse the whole craze of what social media has done to these players as far as highlight reels, as far as everything that they are able to now post online? Um, is there anything from a high school standpoint that you tell players to maybe not do or try not to do or try to stay away from when it comes to social media?
Part of your question broke up. I'm sorry, but I believe it was based on what I try to tell kids with social media, whether to jump in and be actively participating or to maybe shy away from that. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Is that what? Okay. So
Yep.
when I tell kids about social media, obviously, I'm on a podcast, and a lot of my players end up watching our gosh. But they the thing I try to tell them is the old Herm Edwards thing. Like, if you're gonna put something out there and it's kind of controversial, or it's something you maybe don't hit send. And and whether you're tweeting, whether you're putting stuff on Snapchat, whether you're Instagram, is not going to come back to bite you later on on the road, because you just never know who's going to see it. And kids, they don't think about anything but the 6 inches in front of their face. They're not thinking about down the road, and that's really scary, considering a lot of them are driving like that probably too. But they that's kind of the idea behind it, is like, make sure that whatever you're putting out there it's a good representation of yourself, your family. And then if it's something about the school obviously, because you're representing the school as well. And I especially when it comes to thing, I tell our guys, like, look, you got to win with class, you got to lose with class, and you got to act like you've been there before. So when we're happy when we win, you don't need to go on social media and trash, some kind of roast gif or something like that. I like, just no, 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 no. Act like you've been there. Respect the fact that you just had, and that goes a long way on social media too, because that's the way kids communicate nowadays. They don't just talk smack to each other when they see each other. They'll pull their phones out and they'll do it that way. They'll come up with
They
memes.
tweet
They'll
it.
come up with
Yeah.
all kinds of crazy. I mean, that's a little bit of their creativity coming out in them. But it's, make sure that those things don't come back to bite you. And worst thing you can do is give unnecessary motivation to a team to beat you because of something that you put on social media. I've taken things off of Twitter and shown my kids in the locker room at practice and whenever, and just said, here's what they think of you guys. And there we go. Now we got a little something to maybe kickstart my kids if we're not playing well, or now to get them up for a game, or to set goals and things like that. So don't do that. And more importantly, don't do something, like I said, that's going to hurt your chances in the future, whether it's a college look things or an employer. God forbid you don't want to lose a scholarship over something like that. So make sure that you, and that's a big part of it. And kids, unfortunately, a lot of them struggle with that because they run with emotions, or they think that's funny, or they don't think about those ramifications. There's always a consequence, good or bad, for what happens. And that's something
Right.
that we try to teach our kids, and some of them learn through the school of hard knocks.
Chris, and wrapping things up with you, because I don't want to take too much of your time, where can we see the Coach's Box, and what do you have upcoming? Do you have any new shows that are coming out that will be on any networks that you guys are on?
So you can check out the Coach's Box. I mean, I have that goofy banner here. I think we've taken down and moved around, and it's got tears and rips all in it because we're cheap like that. But you can watch us on Facebook on our Coach's Box Facebook page. We have a YouTube channel, and you can follow us on Twitter. We do like to put some stuff on there. Heck, we even put some TikToks out there. We've got a pretty good little TikTok following, because every now and then we say some stuff that might be controversial and or at least debatable. We like to say it's more of a debatable topic that we like to put out there, and or some of our funny outtakes. So you can check us out there as well. And we do take our shows and we pull the audio and we try to put those on Apple, Spotify, and Google, and try to do that. And all of our stuff is free. That was another thing too. A lot of the sports in our area we're starting to get put behind a paywall, and we don't like to put our content behind a paywall. We've even done broadcasts of sporting events locally here with some of our schools and even our rival schools, and just to make sure that if there was no media covering it, hey, we'll cover it. We've done a basketball game, a couple basketball games. We've done football. We've done a lot of football games, and heck, we even did volleyball last year. I don't know the proper terminology for volleyball, but me and my buddy Zach, who's also on the Coach's Box, we used a lot of basketball terminology for the volleyball game. It was two state ranked teams that were playing. Nobody covered it. Said, heck, we'll do it. And our fans loved it for that. Although they did give us a hard time about passing a ball. Okay, well, I thought it bump it or whatever. But again, we still take a lot of that and put the same stuff into our broadcast too, because we just like to have fun. As far as our shows, again, we'll have a new episode tomorrow night of the Coach's Box. Should be a lot of fun as always. We'll have Jim Powers, who also does the high school sports caravan for Fox 2 News out of St. Louis. He'll join our show. He's done a few episodes of On the Move with the Caravan that we put out on our channel too. To kind of, he highlights sports. He highlights a lot of local athletes in the area, the St. Louis metropolitan area and the Jefferson County area as well. So we get to talk about some of those things, especially during football season. We do a lot of football previews. I do my own personal podcast during the summertime because I just like to get on some topics and rant here and there for about 15 minutes. It does, that way I can get all the mic time and the other guys talking. But no, we have a lot of fun of doing that. Riley Blair, he's one of those guys. Like me, he likes to ramble on at times, but we do have a lot of fun, and I think we've got some things that are cooking in the kitchen a little bit that we might try because we always like to try new things. Like you had mentioned it before, I think off the air, about coaches being adaptable. That's just what we do. We like to adapt and try new stuff, and we're going to throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. And if it does, I think it's, we do it for free. Our sponsorship is stupid cheap. And we like to keep it that way for a reason. So that way we support our local businesses, we support our local athletes, and we also get to have fun in the process. So, if hopefully people who watch this want to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can follow us on Facebook. You can find us on TikTok. It's all the Coach's Box. And like I said, we just call it like we see it, man.
Well, Chris, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. Sorry about the little bit of the audio technical difficulties we had, but I really, truly appreciate your time. And like I said, I am a huge fan of the show. I love the way you guys interact. It totally reminds me of how I am with my buddies and my friends. And we've grown up together. So thank you again for being on the show. I appreciate it. And everybody, please, go check out the Coach's Box if you probably already haven't. They are a great group of guys and some great coaches and a lot of great feedback from you, Chris. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care.